My daughter-in-law clinked her glass at my 75th and said cheers to shipping her to the home. I felt the sting, but I kept my spine. Decades of mothering taught me that steadiness cuts deeper than noise. I raised my flute just an inch and slid a small laminated card with a QR into the center of the table. My one-sentence toast: my old powers of attorney were revoked and replaced. That was only the first ripple. In the days ahead, polite rooms would stop guessing about me and start reading the truth. Before I continue the story, please subscribe to the channel and leave a comment letting me know where you're watching from. The valet took my keys with careful cheer. River Oaks glowed the way Houston does linen under chandelier light, laughter floating like perfume. I walked slowly, letting my knees set the pace. At 75, a woman can vanish one courtesy at a time. The host gestured toward the private room, a gold rope making a small velvet boundary. Inside a sideboard held a cake, dressed in sugar flowers. The air smelled of butter and citrus. A brass easel near the door carried the seating map. Names marched in tidy, cursive circles. I found mine fast. I've been a mother long enough to know where to look when people mean to keep you where they can see you but not hear you. My place card sat near the service door, and the Tray Jack italic sublabel neat as a verdict service corner. A yellow paperclip pinned a custom menu topped with a slip that read, "Care Notes." I touched the laminate to be sure it was real. Later my son murmured, eyes sliding off mine. Jody moved from group to group as if every room were a mirror. So generous people said when she reminded them I'd paid for the renovation of Adnan's first condo, for braces for camps, for the emergencies families call private. So thoughtful they added eyes returning to Jody's red silk and diamonds. She patted shoulders, arranged smiles, and used my name like seasoning, just enough to sell the dish. On the sideboard, a microphone waited beside the cake knife patient as a tool waiting for a hand. Amuse-bouche, salad. Entree. The room inhaled and exhaled in courses. When conversation asked for old stories, it borrowed mine without looking my way. A server refilled my water and hid a smile when a cousin called his Manhattan old-fashioned like Noreen's taste. I let it pass. My son talked about a deal that closed at 5:59, about a client who wanted everything in writing and then changed his mind. I listened and repeated a private rule that kept me steady through a hard marriage and through the years after I will not embarrass my son. I will remember who I am. Dessert arrived unlit. The lights dimmed politely. Jody tapped the microphone with one manicured finger. The room hushed. Everyone, she said, voice warm as toast, a quick word about our honored lady. She raised her flute. To shipping her to the home. The line flew like a cork. Laughter bubbled. People love permission. Someone at the far end hooted. A cousin winced, then smoothed his face. The server's mouth tightened. My son grinned, then checked who approved. I lifted the glass, paused, and felt the room turn itself into an audience. I did not drink. I set the flute down quiet as a prayer between pages. The napkin on my lap became a ruler. I aligned its edge with the plate as if straight lines could save a crooked moment. The microphone cooled on the sideboard like a rinse tool. The laminated place card caught a slice of chandelier and threw a bright square across my knuckles. I let the sting land. My breath counted for me in 4. Hold 2, out 6. Silence can be the loudest seat in a room. Across the table, Jody turned praise into planning. "We'll make sure she's comfortable," she said, voice smooth. "She deserves the best." Heads nodded. Of course I answered, because of my rule and because dignity is a discipline. I reached for water instead of champagne. My son looked at me and away, like a boy who has tasted a word and cannot spit it out. I watched, took note, and let the room keep the noise it had made. When the candles did appear, the chorus was loud. People like songs they know. I blew once gently, and the server slid the knife into my hand as if it were routine for women to cut their own celebrations. I pressed the blade through frosting, and air lifted one neat slice and laid it down. I did not offer the first plate to the one with the microphone. I offered it to the young server who had met me at the door with water and kindness. He blinked, then smiled. Small economies matter. I signed the check while the coffee cooled. My pen moved without consultation. The floor manager thanked me with professional warmth and a glance that said, "We both saw what we saw." I gathered the care note slip and slid it into my clutch. My knees reminded me to stand with care, and I did. At the threshold, I looked once at the brass easel with its perfect calligraphy, and I felt a steadiness arrive like a Texas rain, slow, certain, the soaking kind. Outside, Houston hummed. Headlights threaded the oaks. The air smelled faintly of jasmine and wet pavement, though it had not rained. The valet brought my car with the same careful cheer he'd used at the start. I thanked him, tipped well, and sat until the steering wheel felt like mine again. On the drive home, Memorial Park slipped by in soft dark. I breathed as the napkin taught my hands and holed out. Every mile added a layer of quiet that the room had peeled away. In my kitchen, I set the clutch on the counter and the cake box beside the coffee maker. I rinsed the flute they sent and set it to dry. My house held its familiar night sounds, the compressor, the clock in the hall, the window that clicks as it cools. I wrote 2 words on a sticky note and pressed it to the refrigerator, paper first. Then I turned off the last light and let the dark be kind. Courtesy by courtesy, a woman disappears unless she decides where she stands. I had decided. My answer would be paper, not volume. I felt steady, calmer. I stood with the steadiness I had practiced in my kitchen for years, weight-balanced breath, measured chin level. The room's after-laugh still clung to the ceiling like steam. I raised my glass just enough to catch the chandelier, not enough to ask for applause. The laminated place card in my left hand flashed a small square of light onto the linen. Paper, not volume, I reminded myself, and felt my heart slow to a working rhythm. A woman can choose her instrument. Mine would be ink dates and a seal. I slid the card into the center of the table, face up. The QR gleamed like a tiny window. No speech, no preface. I simply made room for the truth to breathe. A cousin bent closer, curious, despite himself. The young server who had watched me all evening paused with the coffee pot suspended. His eyes flicked to the code, then to my face. The air shifted the way it does before a summer storm on Allen Parkway, pressure-changing people not yet aware that they'd felt it. Napkins quieted. Phones hovered near pockets by habit. I lifted my glass an inch, just enough to anchor what came next. Before anyone plans my housing, I said voice plain as a grocery list. The only plan that matters is this. My prior powers of attorney are revoked and replaced effective last week. I lowered the glass. No flourish. No names. I let the sentence stand in its shoes. A toast pared down to bone. Somewhere near the sideboard, the microphone seemed suddenly unnecessary, like a trumpet after taps. 2 guests moved first, the kind who verify everything index fingers to screens. A soft chime as cameras recognized the pattern. They leaned over the center and their phones bloomed with a PDF. It's notarized, one murmured, not loud, but the words traveled quicker than laughter had. Another guest pinched the screen wider, finding the seal, the date, the witness line. Their heads gave the smallest nod people give when they encounter a fact that will not be argued with. The server straightened into a perfect neutral you only learn by serving too many parties. Across from me, Jody's smile arrested mid-bloom, then restarted half a shade too bright. Her hostess cadence came back on like canned music after a power flicker. She set her flute down as if it were delicate. Adnan almost laughed habit. I thought then stopped when his phone stayed dark in his hand. His eyes went to Jody for a cue and found nothing to borrow. He looked down at the QR, then away like a boy who had discovered the assignment had been turned in yesterday. Chairs made that soft scrape they make when people realize the room has acquired another parent law, not hostess. Conversations restarted at a lower pitch, less sparkle, more calculation. A relative with good intentions and a shallow grasp sighed, "Well, that's organized," and then asked someone about the Astros to change the subject. I did not gloat. I cataloged instead the capacity note referenced in the introductory paragraph, the revocation language, the replacement agent structure, the date, the county, the notary seal, documents over volume. I felt my shoulders lower a fraction. The microphone stayed where it had waited all night, cooling on the sideboard beside the cake knife. I drew the card back to the right edge of my plate and sipped water. The young server passed, and I thanked him by name. Gratitude is not weakness when you choose it. Someone at the far table asked for decaf. Someone else remembered a sitter. The party's sound found a new shape, one I could stand inside without losing my outline. Relief arrived with a small ache for what might have been if courtesy had been chosen first. I did not add another sentence. I did not explain. The QR did both job's announcement and boundary better than I could with a trembling voice. I watched faces the way a gardener watches a forecast for hints, for patterns, for a change that will decide how you cut and when you water. Jody touched Adnan's sleeve in a rhythm I knew too well stay on script. He nodded, but his jaw worked the way it did when he was 3 and wanted both cookies and approval. I remembered holding that jaw in my palm and telling him that choices make men. My phone buzzed once, haptic, only no sound. I glanced down. A photo from a close friend who had excused herself early, a laptop screen captured at a tilt, a slide title frozen mid-meeting. Placement first, then estate time-stamped within the hour. The kind of sentence people put in writing when they forget who raised them. I saved the image to a new folder labeled Evidence and felt the old calm take its seat at my table. Paper would speak twice to the room tonight and to any plan that mistook me for an item to be placed. I set my phone face down, not to hide but to hold my line. Coffee, the server asked. Please, I said. Around us, plates were cleared. Someone requested boxes for leftover cake. I looked at the laminated edge of the place card and then at the chandelier it had borrowed light from. I had been asked to be part of a performance. I had answered with a record. The difference would matter in the morning. The laugh from the restaurant rode home with me like a fork rattling in the glove box. River Oaks lights smeared across the windshield and the slide title on my phone, boxed in corporate blue, wouldn't dim. I kept both hands at 10 and 2 and repeated what steadied me all evening: paper, not volume. By the time I turned onto my street, the ache behind my ribs had cooled into intent. I parked under the crepe myrtle, listened to the engine tick, and let the night air close the door behind me. Inside the bungalow kept its honest quiet, the faint vanilla of old books, the hum of the fridge. I set my purse on the bench, put the kettle on, and opened my laptop at the kitchen table. The photo airdropped in. Placement first, then estate. The slide read, in a font chosen to make a bad idea look responsible. I zoomed in tonight's timestamp, a file name with initials, footer tags for Charity League Monthly. I created a folder called Evidence Placement, saved the image, and opened a plain text log. I typed the basics, time source context, then hit save. I studied the footer again, PR Logistics Donor Care, and rubbed my jaw to keep from grinding my teeth. This wasn't only dinner cruelty, it was a program. Placement first, as if I were a chair to be moved, then the harvest of a story and whatever assets their narrative could pry loose. The kettle clicked, but the tea tasted like warm water. Not everything needed to be warm tonight. I duplicated the photo to the cloud and locked the folder. My phone buzzed. A friend whispered from a porch somewhere 2 neighborhoods over. I saw that slide in a huddle. They said timeline and downsizing weekend. I kept my voice even. You did the right thing. I will name documents, not people. She exhaled. I have a board seat. I know I said. And I know how to keep ink where it belongs. We hung up before Fear could change her mind. I added a line to the log witness confirms preview. No names recorded. I turned to my own stack. Last week's capacity letter signed witness sat where I'd left it. The revocation PDFs lived in both a binder and a read-only link. I drafted Monday's list bank manager first, elder law attorney Gloria second, HOA notice, medical advocate form. Goals in 3 numbers stop the placement narrative. Root all decisions to me only. Preserve dignity without public brawls. I wrote them again on an index card and slipped it into my wallet. Near midnight, a second ping lit the counter. Kyron. My grandson never writes this late unless it's about a test or a truth. His screenshot slid into view a small group chat with Jody's line in clean type. Placement first, then estate, followed by downsizing weekend staging next. A heart reaction from an unknown number. Then Kyron. I'm sorry, Nana. I should have said something at dinner. The floor tilted a degree. I laid my palm flat on the table and answered, You did the right thing tonight. Thank you for trusting me. He sent back a single blue thumbs up, then nothing, which was mercy. I saved the screenshot, noted sender IDs and time, and filed it in evidence, messages, and the cloud. I added to the log content, corroborate slide language. Then I wrote the lines I would not cross. No shouting, no ambushes, no threats. Expect the welfare check gambit. Answer with capacity letter and call logs. Expect safety talk. Invite a home assessment on my terms. Expect help with conditions. Choose services with invoices, not strings. I typed a one-page summary any hostile receptionist could scan without needing a manager. I listed risks the way I used to write grocery lists before holidays. If they push decline route to physician's note and attorney. If they spin reputation at Jody's gala, hold receipts, and let time work. Names went into a witness list the friend tonight. The server whose name badge I had read. The committee calendar I would capture in the morning. I opened a blank cease and desist template and left the addressee line empty. Prepared is not the same as hostile. It is simply awake. At 2:15, the house creaked the way old houses do when night decides to turn. I set 3 manila envelopes on the runner by the door and addressed them in a slow hand. The bank, the attorney, the HOA. I printed 2 more copies of the revocation and tucked one into the glove box with my registration. A plastic folder labeled Carrie took the capacity letter, the agent list, and the summary. I was not arming for war. I was preparing to be heard without raising my voice. Near 3, I stretched out on the sofa with a light throw over my knees and the list in my hand. The neighborhood held its breath between late and early. When the alarm rang at 6:30, the printer had already warmed like a small animal at my feet. In the gray of morning, the envelopes looked heavier than paper usually does. I stacked them by the door under a compass paperweight. 3 envelopes waited with a single promise printed in red across each label, effective immediately. I touched the words the way some people touch a mezuzah, not out of superstition, but to honor a threshold. Outside, sparrows started their morning argument. I poured fresh coffee, opened my calendar, and sent 2 appointment requests Gloria for 9 Lacey at the bank for 10:30. By Monday morning, my pen, my notary stamp, and my spine would arrive before anyone else's story did. Dawn found my printer already purring. I laid 3 manila folders on the kitchen table, bank legal contacts, and fed sheets until each had twins. The capacity letter went on top like a shield. I labeled tabs in steady handwriting and tucked a blue pen under every clip. The envelopes from last night waited by the door with their red bands, effective immediately. I texted, on my way at 9, to Gloria, and see you at 10:30 to Lacey, then photographed the stacked packets for my log. Not drama. Logistics. The steadiness felt like oxygen. Gloria's mid-rise office smelled faintly of paper and citrus. We sat at a long table. She read the capacity letter, then the revocation language, then my successor list. Clear, she said. Scope I answered in single sentences, pilot style, all prior powers revoked. Medical and financial agents replaced. Communications about placement or estate to come to me or to you. She tapped the cease and desist draft. Tone stays cool. Boundaries, not battles. I added 1 line to the template. Kindly direct future inquiries to the principal or counsel. Family debate is not authorized notice. She squared the stack with the heel of her hand and opened the notary journal. The first seal pressed with a soft thud like a door shutting on a draft. Date, 06/09/2025. I initialed beside my printed name, then again on the replacement forms, then again on the notice directing all contacts to me. Beat, stamp, beat stamp. My shoulders loosened each time metal met paper. She slid copies into a red-striped envelope and wrote, "Effective immediately," across the flap. If anyone challenges, she said, "We prefer ink to speeches." I nodded. Documents over volume. At the memorial branch, Lassie waved me into her office and locked the screen. She verified my ID, scanned the packet, and typed fast. "Attaching to your profile now," she said, "will enable an authorized caller challenge. If anyone phones to help, we flag it and call you first." She added a note in the account, "Do not accept placement-related instructions unless directly from account holder." Alerts would ping me for attempts to move funds or add users. She printed confirmations and we signed in tidy strokes. "You're doing this right," she said, early and in writing. I felt my breath deepen. The UPS store clerk knew the rhythm of other people's paper emergencies. I sent 3 overnight packets, 1 to the Charities Council, 1 to an assisted living admissions office, 1 to the HOA records desk each, with a bright summary sheet. The printer hissed out thermal labels. The clerk smoothed them with a practiced palm. "Adult signature required." He said setting red stickers on the corners. I wrote the tracking numbers in my ledger and took the receipts like small deeds. Watching the labels curl at the edges gave me the oddest comfort paper, moving on rails faster than whispers. Back in the car, I peeled open a protein bar and drank half a bottle of water. My phone stacked messages from Jody. I did not open them. I created a folder called Records U609 and slid the unread texts into it. No debates by phone. I sent 1 standard line to Adnan for placement or estate questions. Contact me directly or my attorney. Please do not speak on my behalf. Then I put the phone face down and ate the last bite like someone finishing lunch, not starting a fight. The quiet inside the car felt earned. At home, I became a clerk on purpose. Scans went to an external drive and a cloud folder. The log got Time's initials and links. The red-striped envelopes earned a photo with tracking numbers legible. I printed a 1-page notice of direct contact only and saved a clean template. I pre-filled an email to 2 doctors subject updated agent year revocation for chart, then left it in drafts. Before I closed the laptop, I wrote 1 note on an index card, ADL video, verify next, and taped it to the fridge. 2 is 1. 1 is none. The house exhaled as afternoon slanted across the floorboards. Fatigue arrived honest and heavy, not the kind that comes from being dismissed, but the kind that follows a job done right. I put the legal and bank folders in the fire safe and left the contacts folder by the door. The phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize and went to voicemail. I listened to nothing, just the room. Then I pressed save without pressing play. A minute later, the transcript appeared in Intake Coordinator requesting a brief teleassessment to confirm ADLs and IADLs. I filed it to Evidence Placement and noted the time. On the counter, I lined up 3 small piles, stamps, tabs, and sticky flags. I wrote a short card for myself, documents over volume, and slipped it into my wallet behind a photo of Kieran at 8, missing his front teeth, grinning with a paper crown from a school play. I was not fighting my family. I was protecting my life. That frame helped me breathe. When fear nipped, I checked the list, not my pulse. When doubt murmured, I read the date on the seal and let it answer. Outside, a delivery truck grumbled past. Inside, 3 tracking numbers glowed on my receipt, bright as runway lights. I washed my cup, set it upside down to dry, and slid today's receipts under the compass paperweight. I wrote the time in my ledger and drew a short line under the day. The day had been stamps and counters, not speeches. Good. Tomorrow would add proof to paper, which is how grown women win without yelling. I set the kitchen table by the east window and let late morning light spill over oak. The phone went on a small tripod. Do not disturb slid on. Beside a placemat, I laid out what mattered: my physician's capacity letter, the revocation packet, a weekly pill organizer, my check register, and a 1-page calendar with today's square outlined in yellow. I leveled the blinds to cut glare. Proof not performance. At 11:40, the secure link opened. A calm face filled the screen. Hair clipped back badge visible. "Hey," she said, "admissions, we're not recording. I'll verify your identity outline tasks and stop if you need." She confirmed my name and date, then listed the plan medications, simple cooking mobility, and balance basic finances and planning safety checks. "If you have a preferred disposition, say it now." I answered, "Please note, resident declines placement at this time." We began with medication management. I centered the pill organizer and opened Monday morning slot. Lisinopril 10 milligrams, 2 tablets. I said, holding the bottle to the lens so her screen captured the label and refill date. Metformin 500 with breakfast and supper. I raised my physician's med list, then opened the health app. If I miss, I log it and set a reminder. The watch cues me at 9 and 6. I set a small timer and returned the pill box to its place. "Kitchen next," she said. I moved the phone to the stove so the frame held my hands and the burners. "Please boil, then hold a simmer." I filled a pot halfway, turned the knob, and narrated each step. Handle turned inward. Timer set for 5. Reduce when the first roll appears. Steam curled and lifted. At her request, I rinsed, dried, and shelved a plate on the second shelf without stretching. She had me wipe a small ring of water and return the cloth. "Clear, safe sequence," she said, marking something. We returned to the dining chair. From sitting, "Please stand without using your arms," I said. I placed my feet, leaned forward, and rose. "Sit, pick up a dropped spoon, rise again." I let the spoon fall bent at the knees, retrieved it, and stood. Walked to the front door and back at a normal pace. I carried the phone to the door and back. "Basic finances," she said. I opened my check register to the last line, yesterday's UPS charges, and entered a small grocery expense. Then I showed redacted bank alerts. Calendar cues, I pointed to the planner attorney bank scan and file assessment and call with counsel. A green sticker read, "Refill placed 1 week before I run low." "Groceries order online Sundays," I said. "Deliver Tuesdays. Verify contents against the list. Safety supports," Hayes said. I raised my wrist to the lens. "Emergency shortcut," I said, revealing 3 large tiles. 911, my primary care, and a neighbor 2 doors down. Fall detection is on. I scrolled through a week of steps and heart rate. Named 2 local contacts. I gave 1 relative and 1 friend, then showed my ICE entry. If I ever need advice, I added, "I call your facility." If I need help, I dial 911 first. She looked up likely at the end of her checklist. "In your own words, how do you keep yourself safe at home?" I answered plainly. "I use timers, lists, and light. I avoid stools. I keep rugs flat or out of the way. I carry my phone room to room. I tell my doctor the truth. And if I ever need help, I ask before I'm in trouble." Hay nodded, then summarized in a cadence that landed like soft stamps. "Independent with ADLs, competent with IADLs, effective medication routine, demonstrates insight into safety." She added, "Intake will reflect resident declines placement at this time." The breath I'd been holding without noticing released. "I'll email a written confirmation and a PDF," she said. "Please share with any stakeholders you choose." "I will," I said. The email arrived before the pot cooled. I filed the PDF under verification and forwarded it to Gloria. As discussed, relief spread. Dignity doesn't gloat, it documents. My phone chimed a new voicemail from an unfamiliar Harris County number. The transcript preview read, "Adult Protective Services," following up on a concern. I saved it to evidence placement and set my phone face down. System not supper table, I thought. Bigger than a toast, still answerable with paper. I washed the pot, reset, the room pills ready, square checked timer, cleared blinds, tipped to soften glare. My watch tapped my wrist for the noon supplement. I swallowed it with water and wrote a short line in the log. No speeches to the air, no rehearsals in the mirror. Just the next correct step, the one I can back with ink. When I pressed play, the APS voice was even a follow-up, a request to confirm my situation, a proposed home visit. I listened again. The words didn't frighten me. They opened the next file. I pulled a fresh pad and wrote the only subject line I needed, APS respond, in writing. Calm held, I replayed the voicemail once before too. The transcript sat open on my laptop case number on a yellow sticky note. On the coffee table, I laid the capacity letter, the revocation packet, and the teleassessment PDF that read, independent with ADLs, competent with IADLs, resident declines placement. I raised the blinds for a clear sight line to the porch and turned the porch light on. Proof visible. Door ready. The bell rang at 2:18. Through the peephole, I saw a woman in a county windbreaker lanyard badge clipboard. I spoke through the door. Please state your name and badge ID. She did. I called the public APS line to confirm. When dispatch matched it, I opened the door on the chain, then opened fully. I'll record my own audio, I said. I'll answer factual questions. No speculation. Are you comfortable with that? Yes, ma'am, she said steady. We started with documents, not feelings. I handed the capacity letter first. She read the physician's signature, checked the date, and compared my license photo to my face. Next came the revocation and replacement forms. She traced the notary seal with a finger, then initialed her receipt line. Finally, I passed the admission summary from yesterday's video resident declines placement at this time. She paused there, eyes softening a degree. May I note these dates? Please do. Thank you. Walk me through the home, she asked. Of course. Kitchen first pill tray labeled by day and time. The meds list taped inside a cabinet. The timer that chirps at 9 and 6. Stove knobs with safety caps. I narrated the same rules I'd told hay handle turned inward timer on for everything pot lids tilted to vent. Living room, next clear paths, low cords, lamp switches within reach. I showed the emergency contacts doctor neighbor 911 in large print on the fridge and raised my wrist to wake the screen. Down the hallway, we stopped at the grab rail and the bright LED nightlight. Any stairs, just the two to the porch. I don't rush them. In the bedroom, I kept it brief shoes on a rack laundry hamper reachable no piles to step over. Back in the hall, the dining chair waited as if it knew its cue. May I observe? One sit to stand you may. I sat, rose without using my arms, then picked up a quarter from the floor and stood again. Thank you, she said, making a neat check mark. We returned to the coffee table and she reviewed her referral. The language was generic concern regarding possible self-neglect, question of decision-making, suggestion of assisted living. No names, of course. Do you know who placed the call? I won't speculate, I said. My practice is documents over volume. I slid a sheet across the UPS tracking numbers for Monday's packets and the admissions email confirming resident declines. She glanced at the dates, nodded once, and tucked the copy away. What supports do you use? Timers, lists, good light, and the truth with my doctor. I carry the phone room to room. Any recent falls, number hospitalizations, number finances. I showed yesterday's bank alerts with names redacted and the check register line for groceries. And in an emergency, I tapped the watch again. 911 first, then physician, then a neighbor. If I ever needed advice about placement, I would call admissions myself. She closed the clipboard and took a slow breath, the kind professionals use to signal a conclusion. Ms. Doyle, based on today's observation documents reviewed and your demonstrated capacity, I do not find indications of abuse, neglect, or incapacity at this time. She wrote the words on a thin green visit form, pressed the page against the clipboard to leave a clean duplicate, signed both, and handed me the carbon copy. You'll also receive a PDF for your records this evening. The sentence landed clean. I appreciate your time, I said. And I appreciate your preparation, she replied. I walked her to the porch. The light was still on. The sun was still high. When the door closed, I took the small green slip to the kitchen and pinned it on the corkboard. It slid into the spot beside my old Sunday lunch calendar, the one I'd kept in marker and habit for years. A thin red line crossed the coming Sunday. The papers touched state clearance and family ritual side by side. I scanned the slip and emailed the PDF request to Gloria and Lassie with a single line, APS completed visit. Disposition, no findings. Then I opened the log, entered the time, the badge number, and the case note, and photographed the corkboard for the file. After that, I sent Adnan a neutral FYI APS visited today. No findings. For future concerns, contact me or counsel. I did not open Jody's messages. I filed them unread as I had on Monday, the folder name doing the talking. The house went quiet the way a place does when it exhales. I made tea and stood by the board reading the 2 sheets like a diptych on the left, what the state concluded. On the right, what I used to do for everyone else. I am allowed to change, I told the room. The kettle clicked off. I sat and listened to the kind of silence that repairs a person. My phone chimed and Kyron's name appeared with a voice memo icon. Nana, I need to tell you something about Mom's plan, the preview read. I placed the phone face down, breathed once, and let the steam warm my hands. A grandmother can be both soft and steel on the same afternoon. The green slip caught the light and held it. I sat at the kitchen table beneath the corkboard where the APS green slip touched my crossed-out Sunday. The house was quiet. The clock ticked. I set the phone face up, breathed once, and tapped play. Nana, I'm sorry. Kyron's voice tried for groan and landed on honest. He'd heard Jody float placement first, then estate weeks ago in a committee chat, as if my life were a checklist. He admitted he laughed at the party because the room did. He described a backstage huddle. A laptop opened the slide title like a splinter. I should have said something sooner. I didn't know how. I let the message finish. My hands stayed flat so I wouldn't wring them. Shame belongs to the people who earn it, I thought. It does not pass by blood. When the buttons rose, reply, save, delete, I chose call. Hi, Nana, he said. Hi, sweetheart, you're not in trouble. You're in the truth. I don't want to make it worse. Then we won't, I said. No shouting, no guessing. We keep records. If you help as a witness. And when you're done, you step back. He agreed. We set coffee for morning in Montrose corner table, no echoes. He would bring what he had and nothing more. The cafe windows made an aquarium of light. We took the corner, no grand hugs, just respect. He slid his phone across a group chat with the phrase sitting like a headline a calendar invite, labeled Staging Weekend, a photo of the slide title time-stamped. I opened a small notebook and asked neutral questions. Where were you? Who else could hear? What words exactly? He answered plainly. When we finished, he folded his hands like waiting for a test. I touched his wrist. You did enough today. Go be 20. Back home, I opened a blank document and put a plain header on it, Gala PR team and venue council. Subject, defamatory implications and unauthorized representation. The body built itself in measured blocks. I cited my capacity letter by date. I cited revocation and replacement of prior powers of attorney effective last week. I cited the teleassessment summary with resident declines placement. I described without adjectives the titles I had seen and the risk of letting that language stand. Any sentence that steamed got cut. I pasted the cool remainder into Gloria's template-filled dates linked PDFs and added the UPS tracking numbers from earlier packets. At the signature line, I signed with the same pen that witnessed school forms and wills. File name C&D correction LED 0614 PDF. Click Attach Send. The email left my outbox with attachments, capacity revocation teleassessment APS slip, and the correction language. Read receipts armed. Server replies arrived like steady boots received queued ticket number assigned. I wrote the times into my evidence log and underlined them once. I called my son. 1 minute, 18 seconds. I am handling my affairs, I said. Public talk about my placement stops now. Questions go to me or counsel. I love you. I will not be discussed. He tried my name in the old child's pleading melody. I wished him a good evening and hung up before either of us could bruise the air. Afternoon tilted toward gold. I made tea, set my tablet by the lamp, and tested the venue's live stream link. An auto reply I hadn't expected arrived. Your request for on-site correction has been escalated to stage management. The run of show held a line I circled twice, LED slide 3B10's correction window. I copied my requested wording onto a sticky note and pressed it to the tablet's edge like a small flag. With the room ready, I let myself feel one thing steady, not victory ownership. I thought about the mic that cooled on the sideboard at my party, the champagne I didn't drink, the place card's glint when I set it in the center of the table. Courtesy by courtesy, a woman disappears unless she decides where she stands. I stood here with paper. An email dinged again, read by PR. A second forwarded to counsel. A third, escalation accepted. I didn't smile. I adjusted the tablet's volume and set a sweater over the chair back in case the air turned cool by the time the program reached slide 3B. Night came, and I did not pace. The schedule let me sit. Notebook log glasses in a neat line. I texted Kyron a single sentence, watching from home. Proud of you. He answered with a heart and a promise to stay off the stream and keep his life separate. It is a gift when a young man learns the difference between courage and spectacle. The lamplight warmed the bureaucratic green of the slip to olive. 10 seconds is not much, I thought, but it is enough to tell the truth if the truth fits. I closed my eyes and saw the LED wall like a sheet hung in wind, my name printed plain as laundry. Another ping. Run of show update slide 3B moved 5 minutes earlier. I jotted the new time and set my alarm forward. A mercy less waiting fewer places for someone else's story to land. I tucked the phone under my pad and folded my hands the way I had when I listened to my grandson. I could still hear his first 3 words. They weren't a burden. They were a bridge. He said them, and a door in the family house painted shut for years shifted in its frame. On the tablet, the holding screen dissolved to a lobby. People in gowns and tuxedos drifted past a camera like schools of fish. Somewhere off-frame, a technician clicked through cues. I took one last sip of tea and set the cup down with care. Whatever appeared on that wall, I had already drawn my line. I set the tablet beside the lamp and opened the run of show again, my finger resting on the note that circled LED slide 3B 10 seconds. The room smelled faintly of lemon oil from this afternoon's wipe down. My ledger lay open to a clean page. Tea cooled in a white mug. There was nothing theatrical about the setup, and that steadied me. I had asked for 10 seconds of truth on a wall. The rest of the night would be other people's mirrors. The stream blinked to life. A ballroom swam into view, silver chairs, glass vases, gowns that whispered when people turned. The camera drifted past a silent auction table, then settled near the stage. A lower third slid across the bottom with the charity's logo. I read every word as if it were a receipt. The MC tested a smile into the microphone. Welcome. The room answered in expensive applause. When Jody stepped into frame, the ovation thickened. She had the posture of a woman born to curate light. I let my breath shorten with the countdown. On screen, the MC's eyes flicked stage left, and a hand from the wings formed a gentle hold. Jody read placeholder copy about legacy and community, a ribbon of language that wrapped itself around nothing concrete. The program clock nudged forward. Slide 3A, the MC said under his breath, and the graphic changed. I hovered over the record button and glanced once at my sticky note, my own line printed in neat block letters. Then the wall cleared as if someone had wiped fog from a mirror. White text on a deep navy field appeared plain as a courthouse door. Correction, Ms. Noreen, last name, is not in assisted living. Capacity confirmed. Prior powers of attorney revoked effective 6/09 to 2025. For inquiries, contact her directly or counsel. 10 seconds. Long enough to read twice. I tapped record and whispered the date and time for the log. The chandelier light in the ballroom threw tiny stars across the edges of the screen. I did not cry. Vindication doesn't need salt, only daylight. The room's sound thinned like an orchestra lifting bows. A few clapped because they clap for slides. 2 donors leaned toward each other, brows knitting. A server stopped mid-pour and then continued expression neutral the way professionals carry storms through their shifts. Jody's smile stuttered, recovered, then narrowed by a breath. The MC inhaled shoulders square and took the room back. Per venue policy, he said evenly, we've displayed a factual correction as requested by counsel. He read the key sentence aloud. When a sentence is spoken, it joins the record in a different register. Ink becomes air and air carries. The volunteer schedule advanced. A time slot swap graphic popped up, and the crowd let itself laugh again, relieved to be told what to do. Jody tried a light pivot, an airy line about supporting elders wherever they are. The MC nodded without seating the steering wheel. And speaking of support, he said, let's turn to tonight's funding goal. The stage manager's discipline held like tight rigging. My correction remained where it mattered in memory, in the clip in the minutes. I stopped recording and saved the file with a name that would make sense to anyone I asked to read it 10 years from now. I emailed the timestamp to Gloria and Lacey with 2 still frames attached, one of the slide, one of the MC reading. I sent a short note to venue counsel. Thank you for compliance. Attached, please find the captured correction for your file. I dragged the run-of-show PDF into the folder and added my annotations. A text landed from Kyron. I saw it. Proud of you, Nana. I turned the phone face down so I wouldn't hover. Pride is a fine thing in a boy. It should not be asked to do a man's job. He had already done his part by telling the truth once. The camera on the stream followed a donor holding up a paddle. The numbers rose. The MC murmured gratitude. I watched a little longer as if studying a tide after a storm. The room was still the room money favor gloss, but the current had shifted a degree. The night had found a small hinge and clicked. I closed the tab. An email arrived from the Charities Council. We acknowledged display. Further discussion requested Monday. I wrote the line into my ledger and underlined the date. They would want to gather the room back into their narrative to tidy what had been corrected. That was their work. Mine was done for the night. I rinsed the mug, dried it, and set it mouth down on the rack. The house made its quiet house sounds the refrigerator's soft motor, a neighbor's car easing into a driveway, a single bird calling where the oak darkened the yard. 10 seconds had traveled farther than many speeches. Paper had done its work on a wall. I checked the clip one more time to ensure the audio was clean, then backed it up to the drive and to the cloud. I printed a single still with the timestamp in the corner and slipped it into my evidence binder behind the APS green slip. The binder grew by the width of 1 page, and the weight in my chest lifted by the same measure. The lamp clicked off. In the dark, I could still see the navy field and the plainness of the words. They were not affection. They were not forgiveness. They were something most people forget to offer elders accuracy. I went to bed with that small mercy in my pocket like a key. I lined up 3 binders on my desk, correction evidence notices, until the labels sat square. The gala run of show lay clipped on top a tab on the 10-second slide. My webcam faced me at eye level. A sticky by the screen said, "What had carried me this far documents over volume." The house was so quiet I could hear the hall clock and the weekday traffic on Memorial. At 9, the video call opened. Charity Council smiled the careful smile of conference rooms. Venue Council nodded once. The PR lead waved, then folded her hands. Gloria sat in her square glasses, low pen ready. We exchanged greetings and agreed to stay with facts and remedies. My breath settled. Before we moved forward, I said I want the record complete. I read without varnish time code of the LED correction, 04318-4328. The MC's line is spoken. APS visit, no findings. Tele-assessment resident declines placement. Revocation of prior powers of attorney effective June 9th. Gloria repeated each item and marked them as exhibits. Thank you, Ms. Noreen, Venue Counsel said. We confirm and will continue to comply with factual corrections. Appreciated, I replied. Next, I'm requesting a joint email today acknowledging the correction content and confirming removal of any language implying my placement or incapacity from all materials. Please include contact language directing inquiries to me or to counsel. The PR lead offered a soft smile. Could we use gentler wording? Something that preserves flexibility for donors who may be confused by internal. Gloria lifted her pen. Clarity serves everyone. We'll provide precise wording. Plain words travel better than spin, and I wanted this to travel. Venue Counsel cleared his throat. We can prepare a concise acknowledgement by 3 p.m. Central. I wrote 3:00 p.m. on my pad. My email chimed. A new message slid in recap for Noreen Charsh slide incident. I opened it and read 2 paragraphs of PR housekeeping. The second line held, "That slide wasn't meant public only to manage the placement story." I forwarded it to Gloria without comment. In the corner of my screen, venue counsel glanced aside as the CC field caught up with the mistake. The PR lead went very still, then found her smile again. No one raised a voice. The sentence had done the speaking. "Back to deadlines," I said. Venue counsel resumed. Joint acknowledgement by 3. Internal policy review to ensure future corrections. Display promptly when warranted. Charity counsel added, "Will remove any remaining placement references. PR will confirm removal by noon tomorrow." The PR lead nodded. Confirmed. We ended with practiced courtesies. When the call clicked off, the house sounded loud again, the clock a passing truck, my own exhale. I printed the misaddressed email and slid it under Exhibit F. One line black on white turned intent into record. By mid-afternoon, I sat in Gloria's office carpet, soft underfoot. Her assistant stepped in with a fresh printout. Forwarded by a committee member, she said, "You'll want this." It was a resignation notice, brief and plain. The member wrote of ethical discomfort, with a narrative that scripts an elder's life for optics, and copied the board. I thought of the hush after my 10 seconds on the wall. Paper traveled differently than whispers. It found spines where microphones could not. "We'll add it," Gloria said. "No commentary. None needed," I answered. Back home, I sent the venue's forthcoming acknowledgement request to Lassie at the bank and to HOA records flagging any placement inquiries as unauthorized. I attached still frames of the LED and the timecode list. The motions had become muscle memory attach send log. The ledger on my desk had grown heavy with dates and initials, a diary without adjectives. At 6:12, the joint email arrived with the tidy finality of a paid bill. Venue and Charity acknowledged the on-stage factual correction as displayed and read and committed to remove placement language from current and future materials. The venue added a line about prompt display of corrections when warranted. I saved the thread as a PDF, filed it as Exhibit F, and slid a copy into the correction binder for the satisfaction of paper finding home. My tablet buzzed with a text from Kyron. I saw it, "Nana, proud of you." I tapped a heart and wrote back, "Thank you. Witnesses keep notes. They don't carry shields." He replied, "Understood." I set the phone face down. The green APS slip on the corkboard held its small square of color. Another chime Charity counsel. "We acknowledge display. Further discussion requested Monday." The tone read like someone trying to reclaim a room. I wrote one line in my ledger, "They will want the room back." I already have mine. I shut the laptop, squared the binders, and smoothed the sticky note that had done its quiet work all day. Documents over volume. The house settled the way old houses do, with a wooden sigh. Somewhere a ballroom returned to centerpieces and dessert forks. My kitchen smelled faintly of tea. Sunday had a square on my calendar now. Adnan had asked for a family talk. I looked at the chair I would use, the table I would choose, and the papers that would travel with me from desk to dining room. No speeches, no raised voices, only the edges of paper, clean and clear. I arrived 10 minutes early, the kind of early that lets a person breathe before the room fills with other people's air. Charity headquarters smelled of toner and lemon cleaner. I set a thin binder labeled policy beside evidence and slid a sticky to the top, documents over volume. The speakerphone glowed. "I'm on," Gloria said. "Me too," I answered. The board chair entered with Charity counsel and the PR lead. Venue counsel joined from a smaller screen. Courtesies were exchanged. I kept my tone level. My aim is simple. No one speaks a placement or incapacity into existence without documents and consent. Guidance bends. Policy holds. The chair tapped a pen, then nodded. We began with definitions. Authorized elder statement meant a direct documented statement by the elder or a designated representative under a current instrument. Capacity verified tied to a physician's letter not older than 6 months. Placement representation meant any implication of move care level or decline. Venue counsel pitched neutral phrasing. Neutral becomes mush, I said. These need anchors date stamp signature. Gloria agreed. Clause by clause, we tightened screws. Prohibitions: no presenting an elder's placement or care needs without the elder's written consent. No suggesting incapacity absent current verification. No soft stories that replace facts with optics. Remedies: on-stage corrections. Joint emails within 24 hours, removal from materials within 48 ethics review for patterns. The chair's pen hovered, then settled. The PR lead tried once. We don't want to police speech, she said. I folded my hands. This isn't speech, it's representation. When you represent an elder, you borrow their name. You return it in the same condition you received it or better. Paper over gossip. The chair met my eyes. Proceed. We reached the signature beat almost without noticing. The addendum title sat on the screen in a clean, sans serif. Authorized elder statements only. The chair signed. Counsel initialed each page. Venue counsel affirmed the venue's correction policy. Effective immediately, the chair said. The room exhaled. I slid the stamped copy into a sleeve and closed the rings. Exhibit G. Afterward, I sent the PDF to Lacey at the bank and to HOA records with a short line policy now in force. Route any references to me or counsel. I attached the joint acknowledgement and the 10-second clip with timecode. A small lift followed the click of a stone where a wall needs it. By mid-afternoon, I was home. I cleared the dining table and set 4 chairs. A glass pitcher of water, 4 glasses, a bowl of lemon slices. I placed a white card on the sideboard recorded with consent. The words were not a threat. They were a boundary. I wrote an agenda correction, acknowledged. Boundaries. Next steps. The hall corkboard held the green APS slip and the crossed-out Sunday square. I left them visible. I sent identical texts to Adnan and Jody family conversation Sunday at 2 at my home. We will audio record with everyone's consent to avoid misunderstandings. Reply consent to attend. To Kyron, I wrote, there will be a conversation. You are not a shield. Attend only if you choose as a witness, not a referee. The phone buzzed once with Adnan's reply consent. A minute later, Jody consent. Plain bubbles, heavy meaning. I tested the recorder's red light, then set it back down. Thursday and Friday brought tidy beats. The policy arrived as a certified PDF. I filed it beside the joint email in the LED clip. I sent a courtesy note to venue counsel and copied Gloria. Lacey replied from the bank received. Profile updated. Any placement inquiries will be routed to you or counsel. I wrote, thank you. I walked the hall twice not to prove anything, but to feel my feet on my own floor. Sunday would not be a tribunal. It would be a room with 4 chairs, clear water, and ground rules. On Saturday, I placed the policy and the green slip beneath a glass paperweight on the buffet. If they never left the glass, good. If they needed air, they would rise with the right gravity. I set a small box of tissues on the lowest shelf. Sunday morning, the light was thin and clean. I opened the windows, checked the recorder, and printed one more agenda, small font white space. Under next steps, I left a blank line. At 1:45, I poured water and wiped 1 ring from the table. I thought of the 10 seconds on the ballroom wall, and the line that slid into my inbox wasn't meant public. Paper had done its part. Now voices would join it with consent. There was a knock at 2 on the dot. I opened the door to my son's careful face. Behind him, the woman who had said cheers to shipping her to the home lifted her chin. I stepped back, let them in, and gestured to the seats. The recorder waited on the sideboard. Before we begin, I said I need 1 word from each of you for the record. They answered the word we had agreed to in plain text. I pressed the red button and folded my hands where they could rest and do no harm. I set the recorder on the sideboard and spoke toward its red eye. I stated the date, time, and names, then added the phrase that steadies a room. Recorded with consent. Adnan said consent. Jody said it. Kyron at the end of the table with a notebook said it too. The policy addendum and the green APS slip rested on the buffet, visible, but not center stage. Our agenda has 3 items, I said. 1, acknowledge the public correction. 2, set boundaries. 3, questions. No interruptions. If you need a pause, ask, and we'll note it for the record. Kieran angled the mic. I began with the wall and the words. On Saturday, the MC read a correction, and the LED displayed 10 seconds confirming my capacity and revocations. The joint email acknowledging that correction is here. I read 2 sentences and placed the printout between us. This is the record. We are not rewriting it. Then I did the part that belongs to a mother. I looked at my son. I love you, I said, steady and plain. I won't be discussed. The sentence landed. I slid a boundary sheet forward, no third-party placement talk. All questions to me or counsel. No use of my name for logistics without my consent. These aren't punishments, I said. They're rails. Jody adjusted her cuff. We were concerned, she began. I tapped the policy copy. Representation requires authorization, I said. Concern is personal. Representation is public. Adnan exhaled. Kieran watched the agenda. I placed a new set of papers on the table, face down, aligned with the grain. Next item, I said, turning the top page so the stamp showed. This is a clerk-stamped image from the county probate portal. It's marked Draft Save. It lists me as incapacitated and references opening a proceeding. Adnan's jaw moved and stopped. Counsel's watch flagged it when it was created. I continued. It has not been filed. My question is narrow. Did either of you authorize or request this? Silence slipped in and took a seat. Adnan shook his head once. No, he said. Jody looked at the recorder before me. I'll need to review what that is, she said. I didn't file anything. Review is fine, I answered. For the record, I'm setting a deadline of tomorrow at noon for a written confirmation that any draft will be withdrawn, that no petition will be filed, and that all third-party references will route to me or counsel. We returned to small questions stated as facts. Will you route any requests about my housing or care to me or counsel? I asked. Adnan nodded. Yes. Will you refrain from repeating placement stories as if they were decisions? Another nod. Yes. Jody pressed her palms flat on the table. I'll have to add, after I speak with counsel, she said. Add it, I said. Initial the receipt line. My phone buzzed against the wood, a sound the recorder could not ignore. I turned it face up so the glow would register. We have a live alert, I said. Lacey's name sat above the bank logo. The message read, attempted information. Verify on account ending 12 from a phone ending 77. Denied per profile. Elder must speak directly. 2:47 p.m. I read it aloud and forwarded it to Gloria with the subject, attempted access flagged during meeting. Adnan rubbed his forehead. Mom, he said low, I didn't call the bank. The alert doesn't assign motive. I answered. It documents an event. Paper over gossip. Jody drew in a breath. There are many sevens in this city, she said, trying a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Closing terms, I said, and slid the final sheet to the center, a plain family meeting summary. It acknowledged the correction and the policy addendum, restated boundaries, noted the probate draft image and the withdrawal deadline, recorded the bank alert. If you agree with the record of what occurred here, sign. Adnan signed first. Jody wrote reviewing with counsel and initialed the receipt line. Kieran initialed witness only. I pressed the button and said, end time 4 o'clock. The red light went dark. I scanned the signatures and sent PDFs to Gloria and to both of them from a line that needed no flourish, family council record. Adnan rose. Thank you for meeting, he said. Thank you for coming, I answered. Jody paused at the door. You've made this very formal, she said. You turned a joke into a process. No, I said. A process turned a joke into paper. On the porch, Kieran stepped in for a quick hug. You did it without yelling, he whispered. You showed me another way. It's an old way, I said. We forget to use it. He nodded toward the dining room. Do you want me here tomorrow when the deadline hits? No, I said. Tomorrow is for paper. Tonight is for you to go be 20. When they left, the room settled. I placed the signed summary under the glass paperweight with the policy and the green slip. 10 seconds on a wall, a stamped addendum, a clerk's screen image, a bank alert. None of it shouted. All of it spoke. I wrote one line on the agenda's margin. By Monday noon, withdraw or proceed. And if they proceed, let the paper stand up. I rinsed the glasses, folded the tablecloth, and returned the recorder to its drawer. The house was quiet but not empty. It held the sound of my own voice saying the sentence I needed for years, I won't be discussed. I locked the door, turned off the porch light, and let the day end on paper where it belonged. Monday at 12:04, the county portal blinked from draft, saved, to withdrawn. No fanfare, just a clerk note that the application had been removed. Gloria forwarded the screenshot with a single line, clock met. I saved it beside the family council audio and let my shoulders drop. A week earlier, a room had laughed at a joke that wrote me out of my own life. Now a docket line wrote me back in. By 2 o'clock, Gloria had a second email ready, a 30-day protective freeze on any probate moves, and a letter from the other side stating in clear type no representation claimed over Ms. last name. I initialed the margins, as I have learned to do, and filed both as exhibits. Paper doesn't hug you, but it steadies the floor. That afternoon, the charity posted its statement. It was brief and grown up a recap of the on-stage correction, a note that a new policy was adopted, and an apology for mischaracterizations regarding a private individual. Donors received the same language by email. I saved the page as a PDF and took time-stamped captures the way Gloria taught me. Vindication feels colder than triumph. It is a clean glass of water after noise. Board minutes followed short spare. Jody was suspended from the committee pending review, the PR lead reassigned. I did not forward the news or underline a sentence. I archived the file and watered the basil on my porch. Lacey called from the bank to confirm what her alert had already told me. Every verify attempt had been blocked, fees reversed, caller challenges tightened. She added a courtesy note to my profile, all inquiries route to client or counsel only. I thanked her by name and wrote the time in my ledger. Small, exact acts kept my house standing. On Wednesday, we signed the structure I should have built years ago, the Living Trust. My little memorial bungalow and my core accounts shifted under its roof with the successor trustee I chose in ink no one else could lift. The stamped deed was startlingly simple, heat-pressed and ordinary like most protections that last. I slid the trust binder into the safe and slept long that night, a first in weeks. Thursday morning, I updated the medical directive, the wallet ICE card, and the lock screen note on my phone, call Noreen first. She decides. My doctor's office uploaded the form. The hospital portal reflected it by afternoon. I poured coffee and read the line again. It is a short sentence to reclaim a life. Adnan asked to see me by himself on Friday. He stood on my porch where the basil is and held his cap in both hands like a boy who used to bring me rocks from the schoolyard. He signed the acknowledgement I had prepared. No placement claims, no financial inquiries, without me present root questions to me or to counsel. He apologized. I accepted. We did not reopen old arguments. The recorder stayed in its drawer. Love is not a waiver. It is a boundary set gently and kept. On Sunday evening, Kyron came early with a bag of rolls and that careful look he wears when he is guarding a promise. We set the table with simple food. The corkboard still held the green slip from APS and the one-page summary from the charity's policy. I did not move them. They were not trophies, only landmarks. We ate slowly. The house sounded like it used to, fans humming, ice shifting in the pitcher, the neighbor's dog conducting its small patrol beyond the fence. When the plates were pushed back, I took 2 glasses from the cabinet. I poured iced tea into mine. Kyron chose the same. For the record, I said and smiled, because I no longer needed a microphone. To truth on paper and to family when it earns the word. We tapped our glasses lightly. No applause, no chandelier, just my grandson across from me, and a garden where the light held steady. After he left, I sat at the kitchen table and wrote a short note to my neighborhood group, older women and men who shared driveway gate codes and soup recipes, and sometimes courtroom tips. I listed what worked, revoke what needs revoking, put capacity in writing, set bank flags, use certified mail and read receipts, ask institutions for policies, then help them write better ones. I added one last line, imperfect love can learn boundaries. I closed the laptop and stepped onto the porch. The basil was sweet and peppery. The porch light did not need to be on, but I left it a small star above a door that leads to rooms with my name on the bills. Inside, the trust binder sat in the safe. The LED clip lived in a folder. The apology had a permalink. The county portal showed what it needed to show. I touched the corkboard as I passed paper under a magnet still and sufficient. At 75, you are told to accept the slope. I will accept the step and only the ones I take. There will be Sundays that are empty and Tuesdays that are full, and either way, I will eat at my own table. If anyone needs a toast, they can bring a glass and a good heart. My words will supply the rest. Friday night, an email from the board chair arrived with something simple and sufficient dates for staff training on the new policy and a thank you for insisting on clarity. I filed it and let it go. Lacey mailed me a wallet card listing the bank's direct elder services line. I tucked it behind my library card. Karen replaced the smoke detector battery without being asked and left a sticky note on the fridge, tea at Nana's always. A house is defended by law, then by small hands doing ordinary care. At 75, I learned this. A quiet voice backed by documents can move rooms that speeches can't. Paper over volume and boundaries are love. If you're older, start now. Put decisions in writing. Revoke what no longer serves you. Ask for policies in plain English. Keep a simple ledger. Accept help without surrendering authority. If your family choose respect over rumor, what will you put in writing this week? Have you set your own? I decide note. If this story touched you, drop a 1 or share where you're watching from. If not, tell me why I'm listening. For more dignified real stories, please subscribe and share with someone who needs courage tonight.